A frozen silence hangs over the Manchurian plains. Snow falls in slow, deliberate sheets across a vast military compound surrounded by high walls and watchtowers. Armed guards in heavy winter coats pace the perimeter, their breath visible in the bitter cold. A steel gate bears no civilian markings. A courier moves quickly through the courtyard, clutching a sealed envelope stamped with a single word in bold characters. Classified. Inside, long corridors stretch beneath flickering overhead lights. Filing cabinets line the walls. The hum of machinery echoes from somewhere deeper within the structure. This place was not on any public map. It had no official name that civilians would ever hear. And yet what happened within these walls would become one of the most debated and disturbing chapters in the history of modern warfare and scientific ethics. To understand how a facility like this came to exist, you have to understand the world it was born into. The 1930s were a period of aggressive imperial expansion across East Asia. The Empire of Japan had extended its military reach deep into Manchuria following the invasion of 1931, establishing the puppet state of Manchukuo. With that territorial control came an enormous military infrastructure, one that operated largely beyond the scrutiny of the international community. Military leadership at the time believed that modern warfare required more than conventional weapons. Biological and chemical research, they argued, could provide strategic advantages that traditional arms could not. In 1936, under the command of Lieutenant General Shiro Ishii, a dedicated research division was formally established near the city of Harbin in northeastern China. It would eventually become known to the world as Unit 731. The facility was disguised publicly as a water purification and epidemic prevention unit, a cover that concealed its true purpose behind the language of public health. Funding flowed directly from imperial military budgets. Hundreds of personnel were recruited, including trained physicians, microbiologists, and military engineers. The compound grew rapidly, eventually encompassing dozens of buildings across a sprawling site. The laboratories inside Unit 731 were equipped with instruments that reflected the scientific standards of the era. Microscopes, centrifuges, incubation chambers, and rows of carefully labeled specimen containers filled the workspaces. Researchers in white coats bent over handwritten logs recording observations in precise clinical language. Military officers moved between offices reviewing maps and operational reports. Steam trains arrived and departed at irregular intervals, carrying supplies and personnel under strict confidentiality protocols. The research conducted at Unit 731 spanned multiple disciplines, including bacteriology, virology, and weapons development. Scientists worked on cultivating pathogens such as plague, cholera, typhoid, and anthrax, studying their behavior and transmission under controlled conditions. Field tests were conducted in remote areas, with results documented in classified reports that were stored in locked archive rooms accessible only to senior personnel. The culture of secrecy was absolute. Personnel were forbidden from discussing their work outside the compound. Correspondence was monitored. Photographs required special authorization. The entire operation functioned as a self-contained world, insulated from outside observation by layers of military protocol and geographic isolation. When the war ended in 1945, the compound was hastily abandoned. Documents were burned, equipment was dismantled, personnel scattered across Japan and beyond. For years the site sat in silence, its buildings slowly consumed by weather and vegetation. But the past has a way of resisting erasure. Beginning in the 1950s and accelerating through the 1970s and 1980s, journalists, historians, and government investigators began piecing together what had happened at Unit 731. Declassified documents from multiple national archives provided fragments of a larger picture. Survivor testimonies, both from former personnel and from communities in the surrounding region added further dimensions to the historical record. Investigators walked through the abandoned corridors, photographing crumbling walls and rusted equipment. Archive rooms yielded handwritten reports, operational diagrams, and personnel rosters. Each document raised new questions about the scale of the program, the chain of command, and the decisions made at the highest levels of military leadership. The international response to Unit 731 remains one of the most contested aspects of post-war history. Unlike the Nuremberg trials, which prosecuted Nazi war crimes with significant public documentation, the individuals responsible for Unit 731 largely avoided formal prosecution. Declassified records from the United States government indicate that American authorities negotiated access to the research data in exchange for immunity granted to key personnel, including Shiro Ishii himself. This arrangement, made in the early years of the Cold War, prioritized strategic intelligence over accountability. Chinese and Soviet investigations reached different conclusions, and the geopolitical tensions of the post-war era meant that a unified international tribunal never materialized. Decades of scholarly research have continued to expand the documented record, but gaps remain. Some archives are still restricted, some testimonies remain disputed. Modern historians reviewing the available evidence in university libraries and national archives continue to debate the full scope of what occurred and who bore ultimate responsibility. A locked archive slowly opens, its contents yellowed by time but still legible. Some secrets remain buried in forgotten files, but history continues to search for the truth.